So, in our three different texts for this critical essay course, as you can tell by now, as you start to read in the third book, The World Split Open, that all three books present a different variety of how to approach writing a critical essay. So you can think of these as three different realms of models for your essays. One, of course, The Shapes of Native Nonfiction focuses on shape and form, and obviously also identity, cultural identity, background, and certainly political and social underpinnings. And the second book, Audre Lorde, is very much about identity and bold claims, but in various forms. We had lists, speeches, letters, and sort of the notes from a trip to Russia, more of a journal style essay. And in this third book, The World Split Open, all of these writers are responding to, as you can tell from the introduction if you read the intro to the book, all of the writers are responding to the central question of how and why we write. So if you take this approach to writing your critical essay, you would be investigating the sources of inspiration for your voice and style, or how you've come to develop a voice and style. Speaking of voice and style, you might be able to hear my dog eating milk bones in the background. Sorry about the background noise. There she is. Where was I? Voice and style. So that all of these authors that we will be reading in this final text, not to say that it's our final text. We'll have a few other individual essays that we'll be reading after this in PDF form. But in this final book, the authors are responding to how and why we write, their influences, their childhoods in reading or development of their interests in writing, maybe many of the authors growing up under the wings of academics, or how they entered academia, or how they entered the world of writing, why they're doing this in the first place. So they're more personal, but they also are all intertextual. So they're all comparing their own career in writing to books that have influenced them. I'm saying that in a few different ways. But the first that we're starting with 305 Marguerite Cartwright Avenue in this book, The World Split Open, on page 5, Chimamanda Adichie, is a delightful essay, and I hope that this can serve as a model for you, maybe as a contrast to some of the previous essays that we've read and written. It's certainly serious and rigorous, but also delightful and contains so much joy. And so I hope that it provides you a little bit of a respite from maybe all of the doom and gloom around us in our own contemporary present world, but also a lot of the very important but very hard and dark topics of some of our previous essays that Adichie writes with such loving care and joy about her father, who she adores, and her house that has shaped the way that she writes, and that she amusingly discusses on this page 7. I have read of some writers' elaborate rituals, which is so often a question that's asked during interviews at AWP, or interviews online, or interviews with radio broadcasters of why do you write? How do you write? What kind of pen do you use? And so she's kind of teasing that central question of, she doesn't seem to really have a ritual, but I've read some writers' elaborate rituals, and I have sometimes been tempted to claim an equally elaborate ritual of my own. I've been tempted, for example, to claim that I light red candles and I go hold incredible yoga positions for hours, or I recite an Igbo chant and fall into a trance before I actually begin to write. But although my ritual is, in truth, significantly less colorful than what I would like it to be, it exists, and it involves, among other things, wandering around the house. I resonate. And skipping down to the bottom of this page in this paragraph, while I do not light red candles, and there are no particular objects that are central to my creativity, there is a house that is, and that is the house in which I grew up. number 305 Marguerite Cartwright Avenue, the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Not sure how to pronounce that. I'm sure all of you can correct me. So I wanted to point this out both for its levity and humor, but that it fits into the format and pattern of many of the essays that we have been reading, in the sense of it weaves together personal anecdote, personal history, life history. It's a condensed memoir of how she came to write into this profession. But also it centers around a place, a house. So we haven't necessarily, up to this point in this class, read another essay that revolves around an object or a house. We did read, of course, a travel essay of Audre Lorde's traveling to Russia, but it was in movement. It wasn't just one city or town. It was a sort of broad sweeping, quick journey that she took. So I just want you to think about those elements of finding, perhaps, this is not necessarily going to apply to all of you, but finding some levity and humor, or finding this challenge of writing about a place, or finding the central core gesture of your writing, or how you've developed your voice, because that's what a lot of these authors in this book will be discussing. That's it for today.